Uh, Welcome, everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order. Maribel as well. All right.
Jay, I'll let people in. You go ahead and run the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Naomi. So this is our January 14th meeting. Welcome to the members and to some of the presenters and some members of the public that are here to observe. We're so happy to have you. This is my favorite part of being on the committee is seeing all these great projects and being able to, imagine what might come of them in the future. So this is the fun part for me. Our first agenda item is to review and approve minutes from our December meeting. I just realized as I was printing them out that we had inadvertently sent the November minutes. So I would actually propose that we just we have a meeting a week from today, that we just take a week to review those, and we can sort of punt on that one and take that up next meeting if everybody's comfortable with that.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I have the right date on maybe I put the incorrect date.
No, you sent your portion of it was perfect, Mary. It was my fault, actually. That was my error in sending the November one, and when I went to print it, I realized it. So that'll give everyone a little bit of time.
I sent the December draft in the email that I sent, but we can table it. We don't have to look for it. I think tabling's good, but I did send it out.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna I actually forgot to take attendance as well. So I'm gonna take attendance, and then we'll do a quick vote on the table. Michael.
Yes, here.
Rosanna.
Yes, sir.
Mary.
Yes.
Sarah.
Here.
Welcome, Sarah. Helene.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Maribel.
Here.
All right. And just a quick vote. The proposal is just to take up the meeting minutes at our next meeting. So that would be the motions. Okay. Can somebody second that?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Michael.
Yes.
Rosanna.
Yes, sir.
Mary.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Helene.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Maribel.
Yes.
And Jay, yes. So
may I make a request?
Absolutely.
That everyone who is not part of the committee sign in the chat, so that for the minutes I will have their names correctly.
Yes, if possible, that would be great. Just for record keeping purposes, Mary keeps our meeting minutes and is very thorough on that. And if folks wouldn't mind, that would be great. Absolutely. So our second agenda item is public comment related to the FY26 applicants. So we are only taking public comment related to those applications. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in favor or just in general about any of these projects that are being presented tonight? Anybody?
Well, can we listen to them first and then decide whether we need to speak about them?
Yes, you can. I think we can do that. And you can certainly do so there'll be other opportunities, I should say, at other meetings as well. So, but yeah.
So I'm here to learn first.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're happy to have you, Sandy. Thank you for coming. All right. So our agenda item number 3 is just the FY26 applicants. As I had let everybody know via email, there's just a lot of, sickness going around and such. So we had a couple of cancellations. Unfortunately, we just have 2 presentations tonight. Just on that topic, I was going to suggest, and we don't need to make a determination tonight, but I just wanted to take the temperature of the committee and make sure everyone feels comfortable with this. I don't think it will require a vote, but that we do a 3rd public presentation at our February meeting. I think I outlined it in the email today. I think that would just, I don't want to really force it next week and have a lot of presentations all at once. And I think it would also allow some of our presenters to to participate in the process. Does everybody feel comfortable with that?
Sure.
I mean, we can set our agenda item as we wish, so we don't really need to take a vote on it, but I just want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with that, and I'll move forward with that. I sort of already, I had reached out to the applicants and made sure that that would work with them, and it does. So, and that'll avoid us having to have another meeting. I know everybody's very busy. So, so our first presentation is Holyoke Conservation. It's Yoni is presenting phase 2 of Anniversary Hill Park improvements, or what I call Scott Tower project. Yoni's done some great work for us in the past, and we're thrilled to have him. Yoni, if you don't need anything from us, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Am I allowed to screen share?
Yes.
Naomi, I just wanted to offer if you want me to share the presentation while you talk, or you can share your own presentation, whatever you prefer.
Oh, thank you. I think I'll share.
Okay, great.
Send request. There we go. All right, can everyone see that? All right.
Yes.
Oh, good. So, hi. For the record, my name is Yoni Golgauer. I'm the Holyoke Director of Conservation and Sustainability, partnering on this with the Holyoke Parks and Recreation Department, John Moquin. I think he's one of the ones who fell ill tonight. But I'm going to present our application for improvements to Scott Tower. This is part of a longer ongoing process to revitalize the park and make it more accessible to the public and used by different groups and constituents. I just wanted to be clear off the front. I think I've confused my own numbering system on these phases. So we could think of this as phase 3 in some ways, phase 2 of improvement. So I wanted to offer this recap to just get a sense of the timeline and where this project has come from and where we think it's going. So the present efforts to revitalize the park started in 2021. We added 14.1 acres to the park back in the day, outlined here in green. We thought that this would help us be able to improve the amenities of the park. There was an existing trail system. There was a proposed subdivision there, but they couldn't get a zone change. The site's very difficult for that. So I felt like I had to address that in this presentation as well. Sometimes I get questions about why we don't have a big neighborhood up there. When we did the appraisal for that acquisition, they found the highest and best use would have been 2 manor lots. So we might have just ended up with 2 homes up there with giant backyards. So anyway, we thought that was an important first step when that opportunity came around to improve the park. And as part of the initial CPA funding, we kicked off some community visioning and site design for the park improvements overall. What did people want to see there? We had a community vision event that was well attended and a survey. And from those, we've developed some of the site plans that we were able later to construct. In 2023, we got some funding to add a few more additional parcels, what we call the Daybrook land acquisition, all the headwaters of the Daybrook watershed. These 2 small parcels here that were cut off when 91 was built, completely landlocked by the park. There's trails that run through it. We just want to clean that up and formally incorporate it. So we're still working on that. We had to do a genealogy survey and there's some probate court excitement happening. We think that will move forward this calendar year. And then most recently, we completed construction of an accessible trail, also some pictures of that. Now that all that groundwork has taken place, we're looking forward to the revitalization of Scott Tower itself, which is, I think, what the public is really excited about. when the Community Preservation Act was passed in Holyoke and the Community Preservation Plan was written. Scott Tower is featured as one of the projects folks wanted to see take place. It shows up a lot in our open space and recreation plan too. So yeah, oh, here's some pictures. Probably all been to the park. You know all the cool civilian conservation corps era stonework from the late 1930s, bridges and culverts. Scott Tower itself, of course, completed in late 1939. We'll walk down memory lane and it. We had this fun community vision event back in 2021. Folks were invited to come and engage in a variety of ways to share their vision for the park. Helene, I keep forgetting to ask you the name of your kid because I want to properly attribute the artwork that was created as part of the
Leon is his name.
Okay. All right. I'll make
He's
sure
now 11. Back then he was like 6, maybe.
Okay. Well, I thought it was a really inspired vision for the tower.
But we're not doing a slide from the top.
Not yet.
All right. All right.
We also had a survey with over 450 responses in English and Spanish from all wards of the city, with a lot of feedback about what people liked about the park, what they thought would make it more accessible and welcoming. And we took all that information. We worked with GCA Geoenvironmental. We first brought them on for the preliminary site design, and they've stayed with us throughout all the phases of the project. We produced like this overall improvements plan, looking at key areas to improve in the park. Here's Community Field, which was redone in 2012, somewhere around then. Looked at other key areas where, you know, we think this park should stay. Feedback we got was that people wanted the park to remain in its mostly natural forested state, but that there were key areas where there were opportunities to open things up a bit at park amenities and other features and improve the historic stonework. And something that came up a lot was the issue of accessibility. Right. Obviously, the only way to get Scott Tower to the park was from Community Field. There's sort of a tunnel under the I-91 overpass. Not the most welcoming entrance. With land acquisition in this former commissioned roadway that was partway developed and abandoned, we were able to create an accessible trail with a new parking location off Overlook Drive. Here's the as-built plans. It was completed in late fall of 2024. We had to do this first for a few reasons. A lot of our grant funding requires that overhead utilities be buried. And we had previously power lines that connected from near Community Field all the way to a cell phone tower near the top of Crofts Hill on the property. So those are now all rerouted underground along this access corridor. But this also made a great accessible walking trail path. So it was designed to be wide enough for utility vehicles, but it's also open to the public. And we were able to incorporate it into a first phase of improvements. That sort of, the goal was improved access and visibility and surrounding improvements. We wanted to do that first so that when we tackled Scott Tower, there would be some surrounding context that showed this was a more maintained, cared for area. Here's some pictures of when that was nearing completion. Here's that access corridor off of Overlook Drive. On the left is the mowed grassy area. All the conduits are underground there. And it follows an accessible grade all the way to Scott Tower. The idea is you can park in that new parking area and in a wheelchair make your way up to Scott Tower. In fall of 2024, we also hired GCA to do a structural evaluation, see what we were dealing with in terms of the tower. The good news that came from that is it's in a lot better shape than people might think. There were actually some improvements done to Scott Tower in 2003, 2004. The planning department undertook some efforts to repair some of the spalling masonry and repair the first landing. So it looks like those have held up and kept it in reasonably good shape. It's cool. We pulled out the original site plan from 1938, all designed for the tower, so we could see how it was constructed. And those were used as part of the basis for the evaluation, which was also done on site. And it's really cool and helpful because we all know there's a tower there, but I didn't understand before seeing this that there were actual names for all these different sections, arcade parapets and arches and so forth. There are parts that are in very bad shape, but fortunately they're not integral to the structure, and the plan for this project is to fully replace them. And those include the reinforced concrete staircase that winds through the interior of the tower. That's going to be fully replaced with a cool looking aluminum staircase. We need to replace the stone steps on the outer perimeter that lead up to the arcade base slab. The first landing slab also needs some attention. It needs structural reinforcement, and then there'll be replacing loose stones throughout. But this will be better illustrated on this one. As part of the application, I sent along the 95% construction documents. As of today, we have 100% documents. I'm happy to pass those along, but not much has changed. And GCA provided this rendering of the overall site improvements plan to just show the basics of what we're hoping to accomplish. So in addition to replacing those elements that we talked about, we're trying to, this tower needs to get a building permit and we need to meet modern accessibility requirements. We're replacing these stairs with flagstone. Currently, they're made of flagstone. They're very difficult. They can be difficult to walk on. The plan is to replace these with concrete stairs. There'll be handrails all the way around and an accessible concrete ramp and handrail on this northern section. So where there's currently a staircase to the north, that's now the wheelchair ramp access. And they'll be able, can you see my mouse too? Oh yeah, it's going great. We need to raise the first base when you get up to the base of the tower. Needs to be raised a bit so that it's a level walk to the inner area where you access the stairs. We'll actually be reusing the flagstone from the steps and making this rock wall a little taller, that when we pour a concrete cap there, it'll meet the grade and be level. Then we're doing some other important, we're proposing some other important improvements to, tie in the tower itself with the surrounding landscaping and the other previous improvements. So there's currently asphalt driveway. It comes all the way up from Community Field. We're proposing to completely regrade and then resurface this to make it more level. Right now, there's kind of a steep pitch. But the idea is we're hoping folks can come off the accessible trail, which is stone dust, and then there's more easy access to the wheelchair ramp and the tower. So that'll be completely resurfaced. There'll be cobblestone pavers that sort of mark this boundary transition zone area. We'll be rerouting where the stone dust trail currently reaches the tower to make that grade match a little better. We're excited about the stone scramble. We met with Holyoke Waterworks, and when they replaced the spillway at Whiting Street Reservoir a few years ago, they made it longer, and they had a lot of these, we call them dino stone slabs, in the old dam. And those are in storage there on site. And we met with Matt Smith over there, and he said we could have them for this project. So the goal is to bring those up and sort of build up a retaining wall here to match in the landscape and make for a feature that people can walk or climb on. Supposedly there might be dinosaur footprints in some of them, but we didn't find any when we were there. But it'd be cool if we found some. There's also a retaining wall here. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. There's a lot of vegetation along that edge where it grades into the forest and the new parcels that we acquired. That'll be completely repointed, some planting beds. Right now, there's kind of a gap between the asphalt and the tower. There's a lot of vegetation growing in. So we'll still have vegetation, but these will be cool, hand-selected native plants, and it'll tie in better and actually be easier to maintain than what's current. And we also presented this to the Holyoke Historic Commission a few months ago, and they said this looked good. I was worried because there's a lot of modern improvements and we're trying to retain the history, but hopefully everyone at least recognizes the need to meet modern building code standards and that we want this to be a more accessible space for the community. So that's the main project. Before I get into the budget and timeline, I wanted to, I'm talking a little more because the other presenters aren't here. I hope I have a little more time. But I wanted to look a little bit at the bigger picture for this project and why I think it's important. Obviously, Scott Tower's cool. We want to preserve the stone infrastructure and the history. But from the perspective of my office, we're really interested in making the outdoors more inclusive, like finding ways to make these spaces more accessible to our community in Holyoke. And I wanted to show some maps that show what I think is the bigger picture of how I see the park being used in the future. On the left is a sort of blueprint site plan that we put together for a failed grant application, but the Federal Highway Administration had a lot of funding a few years ago in their Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods grant program. And this was all about redressing harms caused by infrastructure that had divided communities. So we were making a pitch that 91 had basically cut this park in half, and we were proposing improvements that would, reconnect new points of access and improve it as a community amenity. So we didn't get the grant, but like this map is how I think about the project and our work going forward. And it shows we've got Wyatt Harper Park on Route 202 to the south. The park is very close to the Bonin Village, which is Holyoke Housing Authority. And there's a satellite Holyoke Boys and Girls Club location there that we've done some programming with. So adjacent to what was then the elementary school, now it's the middle school, Jarvis Heights Apartments, the Daybrook Village Senior Living, Veterans Home is across the street. In addition to the surrounding neighborhood, these are all, organizations, constituents that we think could make really good use of the park if it were restored and if it was known that it was accessible to them and could be used for programming. On the right is our project that we've been working on also for a few years related to the Daybrook watershed. That's Holyoke's hidden underground stream. So we've been doing green infrastructure improvements and nature education at Sullivan School and Holyoke High School, among some other activities. It was actually the land acquisition that's going to go hopefully move forward this year. That was also intended to be matching funds for this project. But so we've already started bringing students from the middle school there onto the park to learn about the Daybrook watershed and green infrastructure and give them a better sense of the water cycle and the Connecticut River and how it's all related. So I just want to show some pictures of some work we have done at the park previously that I hope we can do more of once the tower is restored. This was man, we're all wearing face masks because it was COVID. This was a Stewardship Day activity that we partnered with the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club and Eagle Eye Institute. That's their former director, Cass Pastoral. And Kestrel Land Trust came with tools and helped us out too. And we actually cleared and expanded some of the trails on the newly acquired parcels. And it was just like really fun to bring the students up there. We did look at Scott Tower and then take them on the trails and give them a chance to try using tools and learn about invasive species and nature stuff. But it was like a really fun activity, and I hope we can do more partnerships of that kind. Photos from our Doors Open guided tour. We were made it a stop 2 years ago. We didn't do it this past year, but I think in addition to looking at all the other cool spaces in Holyoke with historic relevance, I think like the restored Scott Tower should definitely be part of that moving forward. And then I mentioned the artist residency we were doing at Sullivan School as part of the MVP project. I just wanted to show some of these photos. We worked with a teaching artist, Gabriela Michia, formerly of Enchanted Circle Theater. Now she has her own LLC to do that work. And this just shows some of the work we did. A lot of it was in the classroom, learning about the water table and green infrastructure. But we also did walks along the stream to show how it was connected in the above ground portion. So it's a chance to do some nature seeing. There's Mrs. Negroni, the science teacher, Maria Negroni. We found some cool, I wasn't on that field trip particularly. They found some cool tent caterpillars. And here's some of the artwork they produced at the end of the school year. They made their own journal art books about their journey, learning about Daybrook and the watershed. So even though the grant's over, this is a program that we think will continue at the schools now that the curriculum's been developed. And I just love the idea of this expanding and the students of Holyoke spending more time in the space that's right next to their school. It's really, really great. All right, I wanted to do that before the boring slide. Here's our budget that was put together. $725,000. We had a prior CPA award of $100,000. We thought we might need it for the accessible trail project because we were still unsure about the costs. It turns out we didn't need it at all. We still have it. I think it expires this June. We need to ask for an extension. Assuming that's still in place, we have $100,000. We recently got awarded parkland acquisitions and recreation grant from EEA. That's $425,000. So that leaves the remaining balance for the CPA request at 200,000 for the total project cost. Timeline, this is like a pretty bare bones. For the park grant, we have to follow FY 26 and 27 timeline for the project. They want us to release bid documents, select a contractor, have everything to go in FY 26. And then July 1, they want to know that we have broken ground, started the construction. So that's our aim because it's the requirement of that grant program. And I hope that aligns well with the CPA funding timeline. But then we have until May 2027 to complete the project. So almost a year later, which should be enough time to do this work. It's a lot more localized this time. Here's from the site plan, from the construction document, what the new staircase is going to look like. I thought it was pretty cool. All right, so that's the end of the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Yoni. That was really something. I'm so excited about that. I remember myself, Mary, and Michael were able to go on that walk. When was that? 2024, perhaps? Yeah, and get a good look at it. So I think we have a good sense of it. So, all right, I'm going to open it up to some questions from the committee members. I saw Michael and then Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, if you'd like to go ahead. You can go before me. If you'd like.
Whatever you'd prefer, either way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Yoni, for just a really informative presentation, and I'm very excited personally about this project. Just kind of a few questions. So one of them is just ongoing maintenance. Is there kind of a plan in place for that? And that might be something the Parks Department is able to speak to a little better, but can you just kind of shed a little more light on what is planned for ongoing maintenance to, ensure that these improvements, stay in good shape?
Yeah, I was expecting that question for sure. And yeah, I think the Parks and Rec Department can speak better to that. We're in meetings with the mayor talking about staffing needs for the park. We think there'll be something like a ranger position, hopefully put together. Can go out and monitor during the day. I think part of the project also, one of the intents with the design was to make it a relatively lower maintenance effort. So like other than sweeping the base of the arcade sections, there's not like a lot of new vegetation to maintain. If there's graffiti that comes back, that'll be addressed. We think it'd be cool to put a graffiti wall like elsewhere that people can paint on perhaps.
What about periodic repointing? I had seen that in the GZA report, specifically on the tower structure. Are there any kind of like future plans for that? I know it's not something that you really have to do annually or anything.
Yeah, okay. So I understand your question better now. Yeah, I did invite the engineer. She was going to try and come, but she also thought we'd be going on a little later, who can speak to that. There probably will be repointing required in the future. One thing I didn't mention is we're also working with Kestrel Land Trust to set up a revolving fund for the park. There's actually one that already exists. It's where the revenue from the cell phone tower goes. And a lot of that gets used to maintain community fields, but we're in conversations about ways they can help expand the fundraising effort. And then there would be an ongoing fund for you know, maybe not huge improvements like this one, but sort of the ongoing maintenance needs like repointing and so forth.
Awesome. Thank you. That definitely, you guys have definitely put quite a bit of thought into it. And I really liked hearing that, you're looking at or the Parks Department is potentially looking at a ranger position for that as well. I think, that's really good to hear. Another question, and you kind of touched on it from the maintenance perspective. I didn't specifically see, removal of the existing graffiti on there, but I'm assuming that's all part of this project as well.
Yeah, that's on the construction documents.
Okay.
And we went back and forth about that a lot because, like, some of it's pretty cool graffiti, and like, I don't know, people like to express themselves. But I think just as a functional matter of repairing the masonry, there needs to be a base level cleaning off of the graffiti. And there's also going to be some weather repellent sealing put on the stonework afterwards. So if there is anything in the future that needs to be removed, that will hopefully be easier to do. We also talked about turning the entire tower into a mural, which could be really cool. Take it in totally the opposite direction, but I think that would probably be a later community conversation.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. And then I have just one final question, and then, we can go to Mike, who's been so patient and gracious in letting me go first. My last question is just kind of relative to the community outreach. I love the fact that you said that there was a survey, stuff that can kind of go back and be referenced and recorded of, what the community wanted and everything else. I was wondering if that was something that, kind of outside of this meeting, you could share with the commission. Just so we could kind of see what some of those responses were. And I was also just kind of wondering, if there's been, with the completion of these plans, any plans for any additional community outreach prior to construction.
Yeah, so yeah, happy to send that over. Back in the day, I even made some in Excel, I made some charts that sort of summarize the findings and major themes. So I'm happy to send that out. Yeah, so I mentioned we presented this to the Historic Commission a few months ago. There was a community update that was more around the time of the accessible trail. And yeah, as far as before the construction starts, we didn't have any plans for any other big events, but I guess that's definitely possible.
It was really just, just kind of curiosity, but, I love that you have stuff that can really go back and be referenced with, hard data.
Great. Michael.
Yeah, Yoni, a couple of things. I didn't quite follow you. Where does the electrical distribution lines, do they go anywhere near the Scott Tower area itself? Do you have access to electricity in that area?
Yes. Wow. Hold on. That's cool.
You don't have to go, just off the top of your head. Is power reasonably accessible to the tower itself? Is electricity reasonably accessible to the tower itself?
Yes. I was trying to find that accessible trail plan. When we put conduits underground, we asked HG&E to give us an extra stub out so that in the future we could bring power to the Scott Tower or the rest of the park. Like if we were going to build a warming hut or other structure in the future that required electricity. So yeah, it's possible. And I was trying to remember.
No, you don't have to go into that much detail. As long as I know you've got power accessible. The point of all this is I was wondering if it's desirable for the sake of the safety of people that may be walking there at night and or to prevent damage or vandalism to the tower itself. If you surrounded the pole, surrounded the tower with LED lights that would at night, say from 5 o'clock till, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the morning, if it was really dramatically lit up, just for the sake of, well, to prevent vandalism, certainly. And also the fact that it is, although it's within the city limits, it is somewhat isolated. So if a person should fall and get hurt or something like that, you would have not only lights, but you'd have cameras that someone could, the Holyoke Police Department, for example, would be able to see, hey, somebody fell down, you know, it's Saturday at 6 o'clock, it's starting to get dark out. They appear to be hurt. The place is lit up, and a police officer or somebody at the Holyoke Police Station or somebody could send an ambulance or a cop car up there and help that injured person who may have fallen. Because although it is within the city limits, it really is a remarkable piece of property. You're almost like you're in Vermont, and you're 10 minutes from Community Field. But that being said, what are your thoughts on lighting the Scotts Tower in the for vandal and help for people, and installing cameras for the police to view people that may be in trouble or may be hurt?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility for sure. And Anya just joined. Anya is our engineer for the project.
Hi, everyone. So sorry I'm late. We have a sick kid and did my best.
We still have the electric conduit, the tower in the budget, right?
Yeah, so there is ample electrical service that goes up to the HG&E radio antenna. It's the kind of our accessible stone dust pathway kind of connects to that before it hops over to the other portion of the paved access road that then leads to the tower. So there would be quite a bit of underground conduit that we'd have to install, but we are including just a very short section or stub out for conduit into the tower with these new landscape improvements, so that if power ever does come up to the tower, it's going to be several hundred feet to go underground with that conduit. We would not have to repave anything. Any of these new improvements that are currently proposed as part of this phase, there would be underground conduit that we could tie to. So we're not having to then again go through any of the new hardscape that we're proposing as part of this phase.
No,
so it's not going to be like electrified. There won't be electrical service, but there'll be provisions for future electrical service at the tower.
Okay, my question is, what would be the approximate cost to bring 110 volts around the tower itself to light it? How would that be a significant cost?
Yeah, I can't say off the top of my head comfortably. We can certainly look at that and get Yoni a number, in a matter of days. Just basically calculating the length. We could use our historic, the bids that we received as part of the trail project, come up with a number, and then use an assumption for some LED lighting, some like security lighting, like you were just talking about. So we could get a number. I mean, I'd hate to try to, guess, take a guess right now, but
yeah, that's okay.
Close to, I would say minimum ballpark, 100,000, let's say.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So it wouldn't be cheap to do it.
No, and this,
okay, hold that thought.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be cheap to do it. Is it reasonable to have solar power fixtures mounted on poles that could get the energy to run the LED lights in the evening, and also to power some security cameras around the tower itself?
Yeah, you're going to need fiber and optics for the cameras. So I don't know if solar would be the way to go. We did mention vandalism. Someone could, but I hear what you're saying about.
Does the solar, that's DC. So you're saying that you're right. It'll need a computer cable to tell the police station that a fellow or a gal had fallen down on the tower and is hurt, and send a cruiser up there. If you had the cameras, they could do that. But you're right. They need fiber optics. You can't do that over the airways. You need actually hard cable to go from point A to point B. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think so. You need something. Yeah, signal. But you know, it's something we do have that in a, you know, we do have that in the park, luckily. So it could be a feasible next phase. I don't know if there's like ways to have a temporary spotlight up there and run something overhead. It's
No. To your knowledge, can you transmit the images required that a camera would produce to go through the airwaves, not through a hard conduit, but to hit a tower in the Holyoke police station, for example?
I'm not sure. I'm a landscape architect, so it's kind of outside of my wheelhouse.
I think you can.
But I could certainly find out.
Ma'am, hold it. I think you can. I think you can, but that's for another discussion at another day. I just want to see how far you would say, roughly, that would be $100,000 to run a conduit from the junction box, wherever that may be, up to the tower itself, where you put another junction box, and that would in turn light up, say, 6 poles with floodlights on them, LED floodlights, to do 2 things. Number one, to deter vandalism, and I think at night it would stand out beautifully. It would really reflect the beauty of that tower and what it will look like at night. I think it'd be even better. And the other thing is to have cable, but to send the signals to the Holyoke police station. But I think you're wrong. I think they do now have a type of technology that you can record and send it through the airways and hit another tower and receive it. But I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
no, I understand that. But you're saying, that being said, it's within the realm of possibilities that if as time goes on and we're still here and we still have the money, that would be approximately, let's say, $150,000 to run a cable from the junction box up to the tower, and then have the gas and electric install the poles and the fixtures. If solar does not simply work out, that's reasonable to assume. That's doable. Now the cameras, I'm not familiar with the technology, but I think the technology is fast approaching where you won't need cables to transmit those images back to the police station. But I think that's with us as we speak.
It may already exist.
I just want to get your opinion. So would it be reasonably to assume that for $150,000 you could at least light the tower? Would that be?
I can't. No, it was a ballpark guess. I don't know if it's
okay.
150, 250, or 350 or 50. Like I'm not prepared to give a number, but anything's feasible. There's power in the park. It's certainly, something that makes sense and can be done. I think that the current budget that the city has budgeted for it wouldn't be able to include that.
It's not current budgets. It's not in the immediate budget. I'm saying 4 or 5 years from now, it would be reasonable to assume.
Totally. And the good thing is that this project is so well suited for future funding, and it's part of a multi-phase development. So the grant agencies that have already to date supported this project and seen the results, they've been involved since the beginning during the master planning efforts. So they are expecting to see more phases. This would be like a phase 2, like a meaningful phase 2. And then from there on, there's other phases that are planned around Scott Tower, including renovations and updates to the picnic grounds. Fully redeveloping them. Like right now, there's just skeletons of old picnic tables standing there amongst the trees. So putting in new accessible picnic tables, programming it so that it becomes a destination for families to walk up from Community Field. having a picnic pavilion that you could rent for birthday parties or something like that, bringing in revenue to the city. And with that sort of a investment and a next phase of development for the public park amenities, you'd certainly want power. And as part of the master plan, small bathroom or ranger station was envisioned. So you would then have your power, your cameras if you needed them or wanted them. So this is kind of like just the next step. We have this accessible trail. It brings us to the beautiful and iconic Scott Tower, but it's a hazard right now, the way it currently stands.
You're right. And I think in your planning, Yanni and you should talk about bringing power. I think it's an absolute necessity.
Oh, there's provisions for it.
Right, I understand that.
HG&E was like
I
fully
understand
on board.
that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But I think you should, in the next 2 to 3 years, lighting, I think, is quite important for a safety reason and for damages that may be done to the tower. The other stuff that you talked about is fine, but those two things are important. The cameras and the lights. But we know we have accessible.
A great discussion, and I think I just in the spirit of time, we do have another presenter. If we could, I'd like to move up. We do have Helene and Mary as well. I think it's our point is taken, and Michael's point is taken, and Yoni at a future application may bring that forward. Helene.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Yoni and Anya, for presenting this really interesting information. And actually, I think, Anya, your point was sort of what I wanted to just ask Yoni about, in terms of how, this project kind of is situated in CPA and in the city, because it is a continuation of other parts of the project that have happened. And so one piece that you mentioned before is, and again, I'm just talking about like the whole trajectory over the past, 5-6 years, is that you've been able to utilize CPA funding to show community investment in the project and to potentially use that to leverage getting other funding, and that would hopefully continue into the future, especially as different grants come up that you find out are eligible and fit. So I guess I'm just wondering if there's any sort of ballpark about kind of how much besides CPA, like how much additional funds have been raised from outside sources and to come into this project.
Yoni's been a real mastermind at getting these multiple grants and their timelines and their requirements to fit to create budgets large enough to have these meaningful projects. And that's the trail project and now the tower renovation. So Yoni, if you want to answer that about the other pots of money and where they, how they were used.
Yeah. So are you asking to date, like all the matching funds and what those would amount to?
If you have, but if you don't have like an exact number, just to kind of give a scale of like what the money CPA has put in thus far, and potentially as we continue, what that has helped to attract to the city of Holyoke from outside sources. That's just in part the point I want to make too, is as we look at these funds and they benefit the city in all these amazing ways, but also they benefit the city by attracting other money, and that is obviously a huge benefit to everyone and taxpayers in the city.
Yeah, so I would say about 1.1 million in outside funding. And some of those were like standalone grants, but a lot of them had the match requirement that CPA was able to provide. So yeah, about 2 to 3 times as much as CPA funding that's been awarded.
That's great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mary.
Okay, so I just want to thank Yoni and Maggie and Anya for this amazing project and delivery. I just am amazed at how much I've learned in this one session. And Michael and Sarah, your questions were fantastic. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Any other committee members have any comments? I'll tag one on just so we can wrap this up. I would just say that, Yoni has a reputation for doing what he says he's going to do and completing these projects as prescribed. I think that, we found him as a committee very easy to work with and a reliable partner. So I think that weighs for me on this project for sure. It's just a great project. We're very excited about it. The Whiting Street Reservoir Stones is a really nice touch. I'm
Nice.
thrilled about that. I can't wait to share that with my father. He loves Whiting Street Reservoir, and we just appreciate the thoroughness of your work, Yoni, and we'll if anybody doesn't have any questions or comments, I think we can wrap up this presentation.
Great. Thank you so much.
Good job, Yoni. Take care.
Yoni, thank you so much.
I'm going to stick around for the next one.
Oh, absolutely. Please.
I'm going to jump off. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. All right. Lena, will you be presenting?
Actually, Jess is going to be presenting, and then I will be here to jump in and answer questions.
Wonderful. Jess, do you have a sharing ability? And if not, Naomi, would you please give that to her so she can?
I got it. Let me try.
Oh, you do. Perfect.
See if this works. Does that look good? Yeah, sick. Okay.
Looks good to me. Yep.
I start.
Perfect. Now it looks great.
Hi everyone. I'm Jess Gersney. I moved to Holyoke a couple years ago. I'm on Taylor Street in Ward 7. And I came to Western Mass because I'm a professor of plant biology at Smith. But the most important identity I have for this is I'm on the garden committee for Dwight Street Community Garden. And so I'm going to talk to you a bit about our proposal. Shout out Yoni, that was an amazing presentation. This is going to be much shorter. Okay. So what is Dwight Street Garden? It's a community garden in Ward 1, and it's between Pine Street and Walnut Street, and it has a lot of different functions in Holyoke. Primarily, it's an informal and formal community gathering space. So we host a lot of events that I'll talk about on the next slide, but also it's an informal gathering space. It's fully open to the public. And so a lot of times they have like a picnic table and some grassy areas along with the garden. So community members will be there with their families, kicking balls around, things like that. We also grow local, sustainable, and culturally relevant foods, which we'll talk a bit more about. We provide food and environmental justice workshops, and we host different free community events. See. Okay, so some of the events from this past year, this is just a few, this is a majority of them, but we had a few other more casual ones too. But we had a bucket gardening workshop, which was in collaboration with the Holyoke Food and Equity Collective and Pouliot, where people brought their own buckets and we taught them how to grow food in the buckets to kind of help access, not just at the garden, but actually at people's homes. We had multiple garden construction days where community members came out, and I have some pictures of that in a little bit. We had our monthly garden committee meetings. There's about 10 of us on the committee. We had our big first event was the summer solstice, kind of our grand opening, where we had dozens of different community members came and we had free food and it was super fun. We had a talent and taste of the garden fundraiser. And so both of these photos are for that, where we were raising money for the garden and also for Neighbor to Neighbor. And so on the left, you have Iris, who was, did a very beautiful storytelling event. And then on the bottom right, you can see our friend Monica Lopez Orozco, who won something in the raffle and was very excited about it. So we had a lot of different community members contribute to a raffle with their different arts and crafts that they've made. And we raised money through that. For all these purposes. We also hosted stops on 2 different garden tours, both the Holyoke Historical Society and the Preservation Trust. And then we had pretty recently our year-end evaluation and planning retreat that was hosted at Pouliot's new home. Oh, no. Okay. But we wanted to emphasize in this presentation that Dwight Street Garden seeks to be really community run by the community, and this looks like a lot of different ways. So we have a lot of community workshops. Specifically, we do a lot of door knocking in the local area to make sure people are aware of the garden and to invite people to our events. So there's door knocking throughout the summer, but also specifically like leading up to our different events. The garden committee is run by Holyoke community members, and they make the vast majority of decisions, if not all the decisions for the garden. And then we have I guess that we should say they make the decisions to include more community members. So we have participatory planning and evaluation retreats to ensure that community members are driving the garden's development. So on the right here, you can see this was our event at Pouliot, where we had a couple dozen people who came, and we had these signs. Well, it was a long event, but one of the elements of the event was we had these signs where we were looking for community input on like what they thought we did well, what they wanted to see in the future, what were the strengths, what were the weaknesses, what were some dreams. And so we have all of that data, and it very much informs the actual proposal that we have sent to you all. So yeah, okay, so what are we proposing? So we're asking for some CPA funding for our garden revitalization project. And so the garden's been, I'm not an expert on the history of the garden. Other people on this call might know more, but it's been in the hands of Neighbor to Neighbor for at least a few years. And recently they hired a garden coordinator, Gabby, who really revolutionized the garden this past year and really spearheaded a lot of this work. So the idea of the general update is, or the project is that it will update and expand our free and open community garden in Holyoke to further develop this accessible, productive, green space rooted in self-determination. And so you can see here different community members helping with our trails to make them more accessible. We have some bins on the outside of the fence, as you can see in the center, where if we have some produce that's ready that hasn't been harvested yet, we'll pre-harvest it and just put it for free for people to take. And we had a lot of food this year. Okay, so there's specifically a garden redesign plan that was developed in collaboration with the Conway School, and it had input from community members. And a lot of what we're proposing in this is directly from this plan. The general themes being making the space more accessible for elders and wheelchair users, to add fruit trees, to construct new raised beds, to move and rebuild the border fence, to enhance outreach infrastructure, and to install an electrical outlet. So we've completed some of the project redesign this past summer. We've had a lot of progress. And so you can see in the right, we're really proud of these 4 raised beds we built. And they're cedar, so they're really resistant to rot and just really good high quality wood. And these were all built by volunteers along with Gabby, who's an employee of Neighbor to Neighbor. And so we built our 4 raised beds. We completed a storage shed you can see in the back there that's black. And we got a lot of plants in the ground. And a lot of the plants were donated from local farms. So with the CPA funds, we're hoping to further our project through these different ways. Can't quite see the first point. Let's see if I can hide this. Hide floating meeting. Yep. Okay, great. So we want to get electrical service with GFCI outlets. There's an electrical box on the same corner. We want to get 14 new raised garden beds to complete the redesign. We want to get some community selected fruit trees so we can have more produce. That was definitely a point that came up a lot when we're talking to our community members about what they're looking for in the garden. We're hoping to resurface and level the alley to make it more accessible. We really want to get a bulletin board kiosk and permanent signage to help communicate more with the neighbors around the area and to just communicate various things that are going on that might be relevant and important in terms of community building and food access and security. We would like a small garden shed to improve our capacity to have tools on site. We host a lot of programs, and these have a lot of food, interpretation and translation costs to make sure they're fully accessible and inviting. And then we're also asking for garden coordinator staff time. This person I keep talking about, Gabby, in order to organize volunteers and to help carry out the projects. So this is the specific budget that we sent along with our application. And you can see that a large portion of it is for salaries and general consulting, but also for the garden, for the actual beds, for the wood that is required for that, for dealing with the fence, for having an electrical outlet installed, to have a kiosk bulletin board, and then also for utilities and some other materials and supplies. So we just want to highlight how it aligns with the community preservation plan. And so these are 6 of the main ways we saw alignment between what we're hoping to do and the goals of the CPA. We're hoping to, what we're trying to do is to acquire, create, and preserve land for outdoor recreational use. We're seeking to improve handicapped accessibility for active and passive recreational features for residents of all ages and abilities. We're hoping to expand the garden's role as an outdoor recreational space. We're seeking to increase visibility and communication through our community bulletin board and kiosk. We're seeking to upgrade garden structures to enhance quality and capacity. And we're also hoping to demonstrate the garden as a well-cared for, accessible community resource. And on the right, you can see one of the performers from our Talent and Taste event. We have gotten other funding for Dwight Street Garden that would this funding from CPA would leverage it. And so we have some funding coming in from the Putnam Foundation, from Patagonia Foundation, and from the Solidarity Economy Initiative. And so you can see here on the right, these were the majority of people who were at our retreat that we had in November for seeking goals for the future of the garden. So that's the garden. I guess one last thing I'll say is that it's whenever we're there, so we go and we water it almost every day. One of the people from the committee will go. So we're there at least once a week. And we are on a text chain, and we all get all these texts all the time of like, oh, another passerby came by and they just wanted to tell us how much they love the garden. And it's really, I think it does bring a lot of joy to the neighborhood. That's definitely what we've gotten from our community surveys. And so it's something we're really proud of and something we'd really like to expand with this funding. So thank you. That's all I'll say. And then we will take any questions you have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jess. We appreciate that.
Of course.
Presentation. I thought you were very thorough. Hard to follow Yoni, of course, but I thought it was outstanding.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I see 2 hands up. I see Sarah and then Michael.
Right.
Sarah, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jess, for that presentation. I was excited to see a community garden application anyway, just because I think they are so amazing for our community, but especially seeing the way that you guys really try to pull in the community and really bring events in and everything else. I just think that is so cool. So, my one question was specifically related to your budget and just the salaries, payrolls, benefits, all of that. Is that specifically for the garden coordinator position or? Okay, so that's specific.
Yeah. I can speak to that we would really like to increase the garden coordinator's time in order to take on this huge project. And we've been talking a lot about how the CPA leverages, and all of the work would be done by volunteers, which is what's pretty amazing. The only contracting is because the alley really needs some work, and we're going to maybe need some heavy machinery and stuff that volunteers can't do. But in terms of building the garden beds, the 4 that are there were all built by volunteers. And like Jess said, all the plants were all the seeds were donated. And so we do our best to get things donated, and volunteers go out and look for the donations. And like a lot of the tools that we use were donated, and all of the labor will be volunteer, but we need our coordinator to take on more hours in order to bring in the level of volunteers that we're going to need to do the work. So it's specifically for Gabby Perry's salary.
Got it. Thank you. All right, that was all I had.
Thank you, Sarah. Michael?
Lena, you're the person in charge of the budget. Is that your department?
Yes, that's my department. Hi, Michael.
I was wondering, you had, if I'm understanding the budget as I read correctly, you had $9,000 for electrical. Was that for a outlet or a number of outlets?
Let me look at the details. Hold on a minute here. This was an estimate provided by Atlas Corporation, that would put an outlet on the outside of the building. And I'm so sorry, the timing of this, Gabby wasn't able to join us, and she's the one who had the conversation with the electrician. So I don't have any more detail than that.
Do you know where the Atlas company is from?
I don't. I could get back to you with these answers.
Well, they certainly don't sound like a local company. As far as I've never heard of an Atlas company electricians. I never heard of them. Not that that means anything, but I never heard of them. Number one. Number two, $9,000 for one outlet. Don't you think that's rather extreme?
I think it's because of what's going to take for the underground routing to get the outlet. It's going to be a lot of digging and building underground.
For one outlet. For one outlet. Don't you think that's right? I don't think it's a lot of money for one outlet.
We are looking for another estimate. This was, an initial estimate.
You should.
And we'll certainly work to get the best price that we can.
You should shop that.
Yep, agreed.
That's a little high, to put it mildly.
You got it, Michael.
The other thing is for that outlet, if this outlet is going to be energized 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who pays for the electricity?
So Neighbor to Neighbor has an ongoing budget for the garden, and so we'll absorb some of those costs.
Okay, we're not going to absorb
it. The CPA is really for the one-time funding, which is what Neighbor to Neighbor doesn't have.
All right. So your committee is going to pay for the electricity. Is that correct?
I don't know if you saw that there are a few other foundations who support the garden committee's work.
I understand that. I just want to know, it's your committee that's going to pay for the electricity. Is that correct? In whatever form it comes in. Is that correct?
Yes, indirectly. So that's what she's saying. So it won't be us as if that's the point. And and I'd also just add,
where do you get the water from? Where does the water come from?
You don't know.
We have a faucet.
Listen to me. You're going to need a water meter. You're going to have to pay for the water. The water department won't give it to you for free. You're going to have to pay for the water. The water's going to have to be connected somewhere.
We already have water, Michael.
Ma'am, listen. I'm trying to help you. Just be cognizant of the fact that water isn't cheap. The other thing is, when you have electricity energized 24/7, what if I have a big boom box and it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night and I plug it into your outlet and I light up the whole neighborhood with sound because I'm having a good time? It wouldn't be a bad idea if you put a type of disconnect prior to the outlet and lock it out. So when you people leave at night, you shut down the safety switch, lock it out. So I can't go in there on a Saturday night and put up a band or use your electricity for my own personal use that has got nothing to do with your garden, but you're going to pay for it. So as a word to the wise, put a disconnect there that can be locked out when you're not there. Now, when the next day when you show up, you have a key and you unlock the switch and you energize the outlet. Now you guys use it, and then when you're finished, you shut it off and lock it out. So I can't go there and for the whole weekend use your electricity that you pay for. It also might be said for the same thing with the water. If I want to wash my car, all I got to do is hug it into your water outlet, and I can wash my car in the street, and you pay for the water.
To our knowledge, that hasn't happened yet. We've had water for this past season, and we were a little bit nervous. We were taking the hose on and off, but we haven't had any real worries in terms of the finances around people using the water.
But it's a reality. And it's a reality you have to, it may not have happened now, but once time goes by, it will happen. The same with electricity. You must be able to contain your costs because utilities never go down. They only go up. So for your own good, be able to lock it out, both the electricity and the water. There's devices made for this.
All right. Thank you, Michael. I think also too, Lena, thank you so much. I know there are some more details. It's perhaps more of an extensive electrical work. I know that it's always extremely expensive as well to get things done. So we appreciate that. Were there any other committee members that had any questions or comments at this time? All right, I got a couple myself. Can you talk, Jess, or perhaps Lena, a little bit about the need for such things in a city like Holyoke? I know that I've heard the word food desert a lot. I know, growing up in Holyoke, I think I have a real understanding of some of the challenges that we face and some of the challenges that our community faces. Is that something that you can kind of expand upon for us a little bit, please?
Yeah, I can start. We've talked with that came up a lot in our end of season retreat. Like kind of what is the role of Dwight Street in terms of food access in the city? And we have some really smart people who are engaged with the garden, which is awesome. And I learn so much from them every time we talk and about like this isn't going to solve food access issues in Holyoke. One garden can't do that alone. But what it can do is it can be like an educational space where we teach people how to grow food. Like this is something we're getting more and more excited about. It can be a community gathering space to activate this space and to kind of be like a nexus for just building community in that area, which has been really fruitful, I think, in a lot of ways. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are growing a lot of food also. Like for the people in the immediate area who are interested, there is like all of our broccolis were gone. Like that we have a lot of and we're learning which foods are more in need, like locally. And so one of our things we did at our retreat at the end of the season was with a lot of people in the room, they'd be like, okay, what did we learn? What vegetables are not of interest? Like what are things people are really seeking out? And so we're trying to start to really refine what we're growing in order to make what we are growing more accessible. Yeah, so that's, I guess I'll say that.
Wonderful. And I'd also note too, I go that way quite a bit down to White Street, and it's, there's function to the garden, but it's also very aesthetically pleasing. I know it used to be, an empty lot. And we have a number of those in our city. So it's like, you drive through a neighborhood and you see a thing and it really pops out. It's like a beautiful thing to look at. And looking at some of the renderings with the various different types of fruit trees that are going to be added, I think it's just going to expand on that. And I look forward to that part of it as well. And I also like the idea of how it's sort of a community space as well. It's just it's taking a plot of land in our city that was really a negative and turning it into a multi-function usage. It's something that we can really it's just maxing out its potential in a number of ways. It's creating food. It's if I lived in that neighborhood, I'd be thrilled. I'd be like, this is what I like to see. And that's just on top, and that's outside of the fact that it's providing food, in a community that needs such things. So I think that that's an interesting thing about this project as well. Mary,
Can I
please,
just
sorry, Jess. Yep, please.
Oh, just one more thing, which is it's a side note, but in terms of the aesthetics of it, I'm very biased. I think it's very beautiful. But also the mural that went up a couple blocks earlier on Dwight Street, if you're heading downtown, we were in communication with them and like kind of talked about making it related to the actual garden and the plants that we're growing. And so just thinking about the general like aesthetics of like what the garden is contributing, that was a partnership we had.
Absolutely.
I was also just going to say there's some thoughts about the local community, and one of the real benefits of the garden is that the local community, like neighbors on either side, are really invested in the garden and engaged in the garden, which means that the community is like watching and overseeing the garden, which is very different than just some structure that's like plopped down. There's community oversight of this entity, which is really sweet. It's like the community governing, this space, and children love to play there. So it adds a lot of safety. When we go door knocking, we're always hearing a call for more youth programs, more after school programs. We want to keep children off the streets. And the garden keeps children off the streets because as they're coming home, they pop into the garden, and then they join in whatever's going on in the garden, which literally keeps them in green space instead of the streets.
Yeah. And one other thing too, and just going off of Lena's point of the neighbors being really involved, there was one time where we have this issue with our lock on that sometimes it gets like jumbled and it's really hard to open. And so I was there one day with another person and we were trying to open it, and then a neighbor came and it's like, no, try 733. And like they were helping me open the lock for like it really showed how engaged everyone was. It was awesome. It was a nice moment.
Wonderful. Mayor, you haven't had an opportunity to speak yet, please.
Michael actually had his hand up before me.
No, Mary, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I think it's a great plan. It's a really, a needed thing. And I agree with everyone's assessment of the aesthetics. It is really a neat place. It really looks good. And I just want to mention to the applicants that you should not be put off by our suggestions. Please go forward with our suggestions and try to figure them out and add them into what you're doing. And my question, though, is really more for whoever did the review of this. I think it maybe was Jason. I want to know what does the coalition say about and what do our bylaws say about funding salaries? I know that we've had some applications where it was sort of folded into the overhead somehow, but it wasn't outright salary. So can you kind of tell me a little bit about that?
I can, yeah. So, in conversation with Stuart and Chase from the State CPA Coalition, there's really it's sort of up to the committees, the individual committees, and the feedback that we got is that some do, and some don't, and that the encouragement is that always, if we're funding such things, that it be directly related to the construction of the project or the maintenance or the the ongoing, I suppose, construction of the project. So, in short, we do have the ability to do that if we wanted to, or we could decide that we don't feel comfortable funding such a thing and sort of fall back to more of a direct cost type of a thing. But that the salary or because we funded such thing, if you can think back to the Green Agers project, right?
Yep.
A bulk of that, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Yoni, was was the labor costs of building out that project. And so it's sort of related to that. We do have some history of doing such things. And when we have our discussion relating to whether or not to fund projects, we can have that as part of it. Could we? Yes, we can. So that was the guidance that we got from the state. Does that answer the question sufficiently? Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
And I'll also just say that, as we mentioned, the funding that goes towards Gabby's salary is instead of labor costs, because we could be outsourcing and hiring people to do the labor of building garden beds and building the shed and moving the fence, but instead we're actually using all volunteer labor, and it's just Gabby's like the general contractor is the one salary we're paying.
That's right. Michael.
Lena, you may have mentioned this before. Do the neighborhood people have to pay for those vegetables and such, or is it free?
It's free.
Okay.
And it's great because it keeps like organic, healthy vegetables going into the homes right around Dwight Street, which, as we mentioned, is a real food desert, and where we know that organic vegetables are very expensive. So you saw those like baskets. And so people just come by and scoop up what they need.
Okay, so you don't have, by definition, you don't have like a grocery clerk that says, "May I help you?" And they say, "Yeah, could I have some asparagus?" They just simply go and pick. I presume they'll know what a ripe asparagus is, or
we have signs. Yeah, we actually collaborated with my students at Smith to make signs for all the vegetables to like know when they're ready to harvest and stuff, and we can like flag it for different community members, what they're looking for. Yeah. And it's a really, thank you.
Good idea.
And it was a really great, what's so special about Dwight Street Garden, I've never seen a community garden like it, where it's like, it's not plot based, where like people are like, this is my plot, this is my plot, this is my plot. It's like, it's just all open for anyone. And so I think that makes it even more unique and special for Holyoke.
You didn't, up till now, have you been subject to any type of vandalism of any sort?
None.
Very good. Very good.
All
I'm all
right.
set, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Naomi, did you have something to add?
Speak not as the CPA administrator, but as a resident of Ward 1, and I live like 4 or 5 blocks from the community garden, and I walk that neighborhood, and I'm not active in it, but I do love it, and it makes me happy that it's in the neighborhood. So I'm just speaking as a resident, and I hope to be more engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just come pick whatever you want.
That's all. I hope that wasn't a conflict of interest or anything, but in addition to being a very part-time admin for the CPA, I live in Ward 1. So thanks all.
Ward 4.
Ward 1. Yep.
That's Ward 1?
Yep. It's right on it is close. It's close, but it's as the former Ward.
I think
It's 1.
Okay.
As the former Ward 4 city councilor, I can tell you that it's Ward 1. Yep, it is. It's very close though. We appreciate it. I think it's a great project. It's exciting, and I thank you for your good work for the community. I think is there other opportunities for such things in the city? I mean, certainly there's a need. Is that something that's been discussed?
Yeah, it's definitely was in the dreaming category of our retreat at the end of the year, is that like everyone, Rick was like, we need one in every ward, everywhere. So it's definitely the dream, but I think acquiring land and I think there's a lot of things that are out of my control as a garden committee member, but I don't know if Lita, you want to speak to it.
Yeah, no, I was at the same dreaming event. And we definitely have a dream of expanding the gardens for sure. And making this one really successful will be what it takes to be able to expand. And also investing in Gabby's capacity to build out the volunteer corps. That's what, if she can build a volunteer corps that can do all the labor of this project, then they can take on another garden plot. So we've been talking tonight a lot about leverage, and that's the leverage with this project. It's about building volunteer capacity and community investment.
Wonderful. I thank you so much. We do have one question from a member of the committee, and I'd like to allow Sandy an opportunity to ask. Sandy?
As a member of the community, thank you very much. I want to know what interconnection, if any, you have with Nuestras Raíces and the community gardens that were around in different parts of the city. I was very much involved in that 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I was one of the judges that used to go around and, assess the different community gardens. Then they eventually bought farmland in South Holyoke, and I think the energy went more that way. But aren't there still some of those Nuestras Raíces gardens, and they were differently set up, and I think they didn't own any of the land. I think you own your land, right?
Neighbor to neighbor does, right?
Neighbor, yeah, right. Because you wouldn't be talking about planting fruit trees on land you don't own. Yeah. It's a long term. Whereas the Nuestras Raíces one was making use of the empty plots that just for a while didn't have any other better use. And I've just thought it was a wonderful, wonderful use of the vacant lots around the city. But I have not been so well connected to that in the last 10 years. So I've lost sight of it.
Gabby has definitely been in community with them, and we've had some co-events this summer.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think we had a garden planting exchange where they came to our gardens, we went to their gardens. I couldn't make that event, but also one of our 2 fruit trees is from them.
Oh,
so perfect. Yeah.
It sounded so much the same, except you've got some very interesting different twists on it.
Yeah, yeah,
And-
totally.
And I so welcome that. When I drive by, yeah, I smile.
Oh, good. It's really like I feel goofy like you're representing it because it's really such a community effort. I will pass all of these positive remarks on to the group.
I'm so, people outside Holyoke, they have all sorts of negative stuff about Holyoke, and we've got Scott's Tower, and we've got community gardens, and we've got, it's
Absolutely.
all sorts of joys here, not to mention the happiness machine, but
What you
Thank
were
you.
saying, Sandy, reminded me that also, another benefit of the garden is that instead of having an empty lot of concrete, we have green space, which of course cuts down on heat in the summer, absorbs contaminants. So it's very good for the environment.
I think that Holyoke Community College also has had at times enthusiasm. They have a sort of layered garden that's trying to be more environmentally well done.
Good to know. I'll reach out to them. I didn't.
I think, well, it may be that it was a project for a while and that it's gone to see. I don't know. But I can remember when I was up there taking Spanish classes at one point, I was seeing some of that. And so there's another ally perhaps. And their students, they could be learning
Totally.
directions.
And that brings up another point where that like came up from our dreaming session in the fall was that we really we have some partnerships, like we have partnership with Nuestras Races and Palante and Holyoke Food and Equity Collective, but trying to really build that out. And like a lot of the people on the committee have relationships with like Girls Inc. and the Boys and Girls Club, and trying to really expand that is a goal for this year too.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sandy, for your comments and for coming to our meeting. We always like to have, we don't often get visitors. It's a lot of, I describe our meetings a lot of times as me talking for an hour and 15 minutes. Unfortunately.
This was the joy. And I had registered for another Zoom meeting that tonight was educational, but it was about stuff in me, it wasn't about Holyoke. And I thought, what am I doing? I should pay attention to Holyoke. And I am so glad I did.
Absolutely.
I'll tell others.
Thank you. We thank you so much. And moving forward. So thank you so much. Sorry, I got a couple. Chris, are you raising your hand?
Jay, there's just 2 comments in the chat. I just don't know if the rest of the board is looking. Maybe if
yes, why don't I? That's a great point.
Okay.
Why don't I just read these
Not
into
just
the
to
record?
clarify.
From Lena. Lena got confirmation that the high price of the electricity is because they would need to install the infrastructure for the electricity, as mentioned, digging the trenches to reach the electricity to the garden. And once it's they set up the outlets, other additional work will be very affordable. So thank you for that. And certainly if anybody has any specific questions, they're welcome to follow up with Lena prior to our or Jess or a representative from Neighbor to Neighbor prior to our meeting where we allocate grant funds. So thank you for that comment, Chris. And thank you for your presentations. We appreciate you coming before our committee.
Thank you for the invitation.
We'll be in touch.
Thanks.
We'll be in touch about next steps, and we're going to move forward through the agenda. Thank you so much.
Great. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So agenda item number 4, project updates. I'll go over this real quick. The historic fire truck. I think I sent out pictures to everybody. Not sure if everybody had an opportunity to take a look at those, but it's coming along really well. Tom Shea's got it's currently located at the headquarters of Holyoke Fire Department. There's still some electrical work to be done. Most of the body work and the heavy lifting stuff has been completed. Tom is hoping to get it done by the parade. That's the goal, to be able to roll that thing down the street. It's going to be close, but he's been in good contact with us and has been a good partner. So we're going to continue with that. And I just want to let everybody know the Appleton Mills project is now complete. I believe they're taking applications next door to the To the police department, they, I think they're looking at a phase 2. I don't know if that'll be something that's in our wheelhouse. Certainly that's just a gigantic project and it's maybe a bit out of our range, but a good project nonetheless. And I just wanted to let everybody know that that's all been completed. So moving to agenda item number 5, old business. I'm not sure we have any that we need to discuss tonight. Our next meeting will be a week from today, the 21st at 6 p.m. We'll have 4 projects, historic projects that'll be presenting. And we'll send along just, relevant information on that as we approach the meeting. And I'll get the agenda out by Friday. That's the plan. And Naomi, don't let me forget that, please, because we having a meeting today, I could easily do that. And Lord knows I've bungled that one in the past. So there are no other questions or comments. We can wrap up this meeting. Everybody good?
Michael,
Thank you all. Oh, I didn't see that. Sorry, Michael. Myself, I was blocking the hand. You're muted though.
You're muted, Michael.
Well, anyway, for the next meeting, we're going to have 4 presentations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay,
The other-
and
the
each
historic.
one will be allowed 20 minutes. Is that correct?
More or less. Yeah, I think we do allow a little bit of a buffer for the projects, but that's the goal.
I realize, Mr. Chairman, you're trying to be as gracious as you can, but I would hope you would stick to no more than 20 to 25 minutes because it's going to be one long night with the enthusiasm of everybody who's applied. But we have to be rather strict about it, lest we all fall asleep. So I would just ask you as a committee person, and you're our chairman, if you could more or less stick to 20 to 25 minutes, if that's possible.
Yep, that'll be the guidance, and we may, we'll see where we're at next week. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you a week from today.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.